I'm Shivam Sareen, your host for the session, and I would like to welcome you all to the NASSCOM India Retail Tech Day 2021. To begin with, I would like to thank all our partners, starting with our silver sponsor Target, our state partners, K-Tech Innovation Hub and Startup Karnataka, and our strategic partners, Flipkart, Marico, Unilever, Ford, and Reckitt. So today we have eminent speakers who will be sharing insights about the retail space in the fireside chat and panel discussions. This will be followed by awards for the NIPT Retail Tech Challenge. So without further ado, let me introduce you the speakers for the fireside chat on future of retail tech. I would like to invite Mr. TCM Sundar, founder and managing director of Chiratai Ventures, and Mr. Jayendran Venugopal, Chief Product and Technology Officer at Flipkart. Can we have them on stage, please?
Hi.
Great. Welcome, Jay. Welcome, TCM. So let's dive right in. This past year and a half has been pretty disruptive for everyone, and we've seen that a lot of businesses have gone bust, and also a lot of them have pivoted and they've been adapting to the new normal. So to start with, TCM, I'll start the conversation with you. That given the circumstances that we have seen, in your views, which are the areas, which are the focus areas where you would advise maybe new founders to build their company in this post-pandemic era?
It's a good question. As a tech VC, we always used to carry a view saying that anybody who does not adapt technologies, whether as a new startup or as an existing business, they will become irrelevant in 10 to 15 years' time. Right? That is pre-pandemic. Now, post-pandemic, with the acceleration of adoption of technology, that has been cut down by at least 5 years, maybe more, right? Depending on which category, which industry it matters, right? So the way I think people have adopted technology during pandemic, whether it is a Kirana store or a farmer who has used it for their transactions, gives us a tremendous confidence saying that there is a huge opportunity that is waiting to get untapped, right? Even India's own adoption of technology, which we possibly would have expected to reach 1 billion internet users and maybe 400 million e-commerce or transaction users, it has got accelerated by at least a 2-year time frame. If you will. So I think opportunities galore. I think they have to look at creating, identifying where they can disrupt an existing business or create a new business model, and there is opportunity.
Sure, TCM. I think that gives a great guidance on that. So, Jay, coming to you, it would be interesting to understand how did Flipkart react to the pandemic? And what would be those on-the-feet innovations that you could come up with, where you feel that Flipkart would be taking them up in the future as well. Like these would not be just one-time solutions or fixes, but this now would become your norm in terms of the innovation.
Yeah, sure. I can talk about that. So yeah, I think when the pandemic hit us and we had never faced disruption at that scale as a country and as a business, obviously, right? We had to really be nimble, agile on our feet to be able to reconfigure a lot of things within our supply chain, within our technology platforms, as well as ways of working. I'll just highlight a few of the things that we did during that time. As they say, kind of the necessity is the mother of invention, as they say, right? It's a cliched or hackneyed phrase maybe, but it proved to be very much true. So if you look at even ecosystem partnerships, one of the very first things we said was, look, we need to continue to deliver essential goods to customers. And the e-commerce backbone, which largely is based on either a national supply chain, or in specific verticals like grocery based on a very city-based supply chain, etc. Right? Both had different types of issues to deal with. So we decided to actually go out partner with the likes of modern trade stores like Vishal Mega Mart, Spencer's, etc. And then said, how do we surface store inventory and give nearest store matching to customers for essentials, and then we do delivery and pickup from store, right? So those kind of things, which would have typically taken a lot of time for us to negotiate that with various partners and do integrations, like they all happened in like in a jiffy, right? Like just because it was just a burning need for our customers. Similarly, contactless payments, right? So we did a lot of work on link-based payments, QR code-based payments at doorstep. Now every delivery person, we call them wishmasters, who come to your doorstep, has the ability to show a QR code on their device with the right amounts for you to pay after taking into account all the returns, whatever you need to do, right? So that you don't need, it's a cardless payment, and it replaces the cash on delivery model, right? So that's something that we are continuing to scale up even after, we are seeing that continuing to scale up even after the pandemic is sort of, I mean, it's not completely over, under control, right now, compared to like the peaks that we saw in wave 1 and wave 2. Similarly, even support functions like customer support, seller support, and all that, which used to operate from tightly controlled setups in office or office spaces, had to suddenly happen in a completely decentralized, distributed way across the country from each of the home premises of these agents. And I mean, this obviously means a lot of work on securing our data. There is a lot of PII data that kind of because it's all operating within the office network and premises with a lot of controls and all that, right? So we could work in a certain way, but in this case, we had to rewire some of that as well very, very quickly, right? And obviously that improved our overall security posture as a company as well. And also for the 2-3 months when we did not have the ability to do a lot of e-commerce during wave 1, we said, okay, how do we keep our customers engaged? They're all stuck at home with not much avenues for socializing or anything. So we launched several interactive video content, gamified video sort of programs. There is one called Kya Bolti Public, and so on and so forth, right? Which saw huge adoption and uptake, right? And we are building on that momentum and continuing it. So I think lots and lots of things. One of the other things I would also say is, like, even in terms of supply chain, we realize that we need to really double down on our investments in automation. Over the next few years, whatever was there in the plan, we really said now we need to accelerate it, because it was becoming evident that disruptions in labor force and availability will be a substantial existential risk for the business. So we started investing, and that's continuing as well. So these are some examples of things that you are asking.
Yeah, great. And Jay, I can tell you that, as a consumer also, we saw that change happen, especially in the interactive platforms or features that we saw on the app. So TC, coming to you, I think this pandemic has also opened up a lot of opportunities, and given that so many business models were successful even in these times, so they found a way to do it. What would be the kind of business models from India that you think can go global in future?
No, that's a very interesting question. So we started off with saying that, okay, SaaS companies are the ones which will go global, right? And we have seen a very good traction. Obviously, there are several hundred SaaS companies which now are global revenues. But more interestingly, because of the scale and because of possibly not having the legacy of some of the developed countries, both fintech and health tech are two areas where India is actually innovating significantly, right? And that we see some of our companies in these segments, which actually are able to take their business models global, right? India is the third largest market opportunity, right? In terms of contiguous single country type of market opportunity after US and China. So while the local business itself is high, you'll be very surprised. Market leaders in India, which we have backed, like, even an e-commerce company like Lenskart, FirstCry, they are going global, right? Where they could actually be somebody who can compete on equal footing or better footing. Similarly, some of the marketplace models that India has innovated on, right? Because we have a highly fragmented SME supply chain and system, both for manufacturing and services, and two-sided marketplaces that what we are doing, like we are in some packaging industry and the various other activities. They are actually looks like they are literally tailor-made for taking this business elsewhere, whether in Southeast Asia or in other markets, because those markets by themselves are small, where they cannot have their own big companies. Whenever any of the companies which are scaled in India wants to go out, there's an opportunity for actually transporting the innovation and the model that they come up with. And they have the scale to be able to manage it as well. And the whole China plus one model in the manufacturing side and supply chain side is going to be huge. It's not only for the big companies which are now taking advantage of PLI, but then that will actually create a whole cascading effect of the ancillary units which will come up. Just like the way auto ancillaries today, there are so many auto ancillaries in India which are global suppliers, right? You will find that happen in other industries, other manufacturing industries, including electronics.
Right. I think the most interesting part is that, a lot of the startups who have made it global now, or, who have established themselves, I think that gives a lot of direction or a lot of inspiration to the new ones also, especially in this post-pandemic era. So, Jen, coming to you, would like to understand that, what is Flipkart's vision of new commerce, and what would be the enablers of the future of retail tech in general, throughout the industry.
Yeah, Shivam. See, I think if you look at the India digital commerce picture, right? So we are at very early stages of that journey. So we have very low single-digit penetration of overall commerce in the country happening through e-commerce, and the early adopters, the first 100 to 200 million customers who have done some sort of digital commerce typically have different need states than what we expect the next 200, 400 million customers who come on to this unstoppable wave will have as their need states. So, for example, a lot of deep user research that we have done, ethnographic studies and other focus group discussions, etc., with customers tells us that we would need to actually relook at the distribution models of how we reach customers. So we definitely need to be able to go through, remove the trust barriers the first-time customers have through some sort of a distributed commerce model, which could be live streaming, influencer-based commerce. It could be around reseller-based commerce, whatever it may be, the distribution model may be, but other than the mainstream platform-based distribution models, right? That is one thing. The second thing is in terms of the actual platform experience itself, we know that we need to be able to speak to them in their own language. Investments in vernacular technologies, voice tech, for example, are very important for the next wave of consumers coming on to these platforms. So, for example, at Flipkart, we have actually launched 12 regional languages. And it's a full experience, right? It's not like we have just changed the navigation facade and to have the language options and so on, but it's a full end-to-end experience is what we're trying to create, right? Every element of the platform, merchandising cards, offers, promotions, checkout, even CX, be it self-help or bots or anything else, have to be in the language of choice of customer, right? And it's a very tough thing to do, right? You need to develop deep NLP models that work across every language. Then also voice is very important for the new consumer cohort, right? So, I mean, typing in like your local Devanagari or any other script is very, very cumbersome, as all of us know, right? We have invested quite deeply in voice tech, for example. And also a lot of the elements of what are the new age customers are looking for. So they consume information mostly using short bites, rich media and video rather than reading long catalog product pages, right? So indexing more and more towards creating immersive experiences, storytelling based approach to selling rather than just a fact sheet based approach to selling, right? Those kind of things, right? So we are investing in various things that go towards this. Including application of new age technologies like augmented reality, so you can place the objects in your real world setting and see how it fits. Applying virtual makeup, another application of augmented reality, right, for beauty and personal care, and so on and so forth, right? So eventually, we believe that all of these innovations will be really important for the inclusion of these customers into mainstream digital commerce. And we have the owners to actually, as the companies that are trying to create this transformation and provide this selection, value, and convenience to customers of being able to use digital commerce to be able to do all these tech investments, product investments, and experience revamps. So yeah, there'll be a lot more you'll hear in days to come. Things like vernacular voice, etc. we have already launched, but that's just a tip of the iceberg. We are making lots and lots of other investments that you will hear more about as days go by.
No, very interesting. I think this aspect of going vernacular, and I'm sure, Jay, you would know better, the kind of numbers that e-commerce has gotten during the pandemic from tier 3 and tier 4 towns. So I think that is an interesting area to look out for. So PC, we come to the most interesting question, which I'm sure our attendees, who mostly are founders, would want to, understand from you. So since you continue to invest in retail tech space, one would be that how has your investment strategy evolved due to the situations that that have been caused by the pandemic, and how can the founders reach out to the team if they want to look for funding?
Excellent. So, retail tech before pandemic used to be only with respect to point of sale and then maybe something to do with payments. That was like, now 18 months later, it looks like they were just simple enablers, right? And now what we are seeing, these are some of the tech savvy companies at that time using facial recognition and in terms of how they can manage queue and other things better, right? But not regular retail companies, right? Which are traditional retail companies. Today, how they are moving, and I'll give you examples. Last 2 days we are intensely engaged with the AR company, which is enabling companies to bring, let's say, you can look at a car or a bike or any device, any product in your home setting or any setting that you want and get a AR experience to facilitate selling. And these guys who never used to sell on their website are today looking at saying that I want to sell on my website, right? Or for example, while Lenskart already had a visual experience in terms of AR based, how specs looks on me, now even the other guys have started using it. This is the digital experience. Now let me come to what is happening inside a store, right? Now inside a store, technology is also undergoing dramatic change. Okay, starting from using video analytics, how to even profile a customer, it is happening, right? Obviously, this is without personal identifiers, but actually being able to know that this customer spent more time in this counter versus another counter, right? Or are they getting sufficiently serviced or not, right? Is there a huge waiting time for them, right? Earlier, retail BI tech used to be only relating to how my shelves are getting filled and when I should sell and things like that, which are not real time, right? But the way the real-time technologies are coming in using video, and like actually Jayan said, even voice, the way it is going through, right? Now actually omni-channel, which was earlier adopted by tech companies, right, is actually now offline companies are also adopting an omni-channel approach. So it is good, right? It is making much more competitive. It is fantastic for the consumer, by the way, in terms of user experience. The choice has grown, right? But at the same time, it's great opportunity for entrepreneurs now to think about how they can disrupt this technology ecosystem for the retail world.
Right. And Dhisham, how do they reach out to Chirtai Ventures, if they want to see if they can raise funding?
Yeah. So two interesting things. We recently launched a program called Chirate Sonic as part of our seed stage program, where we are inviting seed stage applications for anything up to $500,000 investment. We will respond within 2 days' time. Once we have a meeting, within 2 working days, we will come back with a yes or no. And we are getting some very, very high quality deals even through this. To reach us, actually, you can, to reach me, it is very easy, tcm@chirate.com. And I can put it in the window, or it is, I think business plan or contact at chirate.com.
Great. I think that's superb for the investors, for the founders to reach out to you. So Jay, we believe, Flipkart has also launched a program for early stage founders. Would you want to share, more about the LEAD program?
Absolutely, Shiv. I'm happy to do that. So in fact, we just concluded the demo day for our cohort 1. And by all accounts, the interest that we saw from the ecosystem of potential customers, partners, investors also for the demo day for the cohort was just fantastic, right? So just to tell you a little bit of the stats also from our cohort 1, right? So when we opened it up, this is the first time we are doing a corporate accelerator from Flipkart, right? So we were also wondering like how much would there be a reception for this. So we got 937 applications, out of which 200 companies were already funded companies, like properly funded, right? Not just bootstrapped, family and friends, but like really funded companies, right? Non-trivial amount of funding. So I think this level of flow in for a corporate accelerator program is, to our knowledge, at least in the country, something that we thought was a very good reception. And out of that 937 companies, we selected 8, right? So you can envision like the quality of the companies that we would have selected. I mean, it was a tough process to select 8 out of about 1,000, right? So I think it has given us, so the way the program is structured now, and we are trying to evolve the structure as well, is that we gave like a $25,000 equity-free grant to all the selected companies. This is not for very early stage companies which had only, let's say, an idea or a pitch deck or maybe pre-product. It had to be post-product, but they could still be working towards product market fit. That's fine. They could be pre-revenue, that's fine. So that's the criteria. When we thought that the idea was interesting enough, disruptive enough, and the founder quality, team quality, and their passion was very evident, and we believe that they're bringing in a very new element of technology-led disruption to whatever they're trying to do. That's what we look for. And of course, we did all the usual things around bringing eminent industry folks to interact with them, gave them substantial cloud credits to $150,000 cloud credit through cloud partners and so on. Apart from the equity-free grant we gave them. But also more importantly, a lot of the startups that were part of the cohort tell us that the most valuable part of the program for them was actually the mentorship be arranged for them internally from within the Flipkart rank and file, right? So we had our subject matter experts mentoring them on everything, like we ran design sprints for startups that ask for it, so they can evolve or consider pivots. We ran technology assessments and architecture help for them, where that was what was a need. In some cases, marketing and branding, in some cases, hiring teams, how do you go about it, and so on. So it was just like a highly customized program. And we worked with each of the participants, each of the companies to understand their stage in the journey, what would add most value to them. and help them. And it's been received very well. So we are very enthusiastic with what we saw, and we intend to scale it up even further for the cohort 2 that we are going to open up fairly shortly. You will see some announcements on that. Companies that want to actually look at more about the program, perhaps be ready to apply for cohort 2, please go to flipkartleap.com. From there, you would be able to just look at the program details and apply for the cohort 2 whenever we open it up.
Right. So that's great opportunity for startups, to work with or to be mentored by Flipkart. So we'll conclude the session with one interesting question that has come up from the audience. So Ajay, I'll ask you first. So the question is regarding just a second. Okay. Yeah. So the question is regarding the ONDC, the Open Network for Digital Commerce, which the Government of India is initiating as a distribution platform for, some say that it will compete with some of the e-commerce companies. So what's your initial view on that? How do you think it can be beneficial or it can compete in some sense?
No, I think it's something. If the more the competition in the digital commerce field, more there will be innovation, right? If the government, of course, the government has done some fairly disruptive things. For example, the Section 8 mechanism that they have set up for setting up NPCI and what has come out of it through UPI and the kind of disruptions in digital payments and ease of that has ensued is obvious for all of us to see, right? So yes, we are very aware of the work going on in this space, and we will look forward to seeing how we can in fact even support and if it means compete. That's also fine, right? It's overall going to benefit consumers, going to benefit the entire ecosystem. If we have different models, more stakeholders coming into it and trying very different ways of bringing inclusion and digitalization into the country. So we welcome the efforts and are looking forward to seeing how it'll pan out.
Right. And TCM, your views on the same topic, in a sense, like as an investor, what do you think, such platforms would entail, or, what can these platforms lead to?
See, the way we look at it is when you give more choice to the customer, it's always good, right? And that opens up. So when there are multiple players, instead of just a duopoly, now at least we have 4 companies, 4 big boys actually competing for the big prize, right? Which is a big choice, right? In addition to that, if this is getting added, which is going to aggregate more players, I think it's good. This will open up a lot more innovation and technology. End of the day, customer is going to vote for where they want to buy, whom they want to buy from. And they may even choose different things to buy from different players, right? So this will create more innovation in my mind, competition. So it's going to make it much more interesting. And people who use technology better, right? There are some table stake things that are required to even survive. But beyond that, those who are using technology better and to give better customer journey, customer experience, are the ones who will win. So we are always for open competition.
Right. TCM, that's I think in the right spirit as well. So I think we're pretty much out of time. So, we'd like to thank you for joining in. I think the insights that you've shared regarding, how we should look at the future, all the interesting opportunities that are coming up. And also, as Flipkart and Sirsai Venture is supporting startups in their journey, I think that would be interesting for the startups as well. So thank you for joining in. It was a pleasure talking to you. And we would love to have you in more such sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting.